One, one, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. We put the balls in the brakes. I'm talking one chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Yeah, it's one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Smash Life Spotlight. My name is Justin Lamb. I am the founder of Smash Life, and we have a very special guest today. I've known him for some time, and it's been amazing to see his success from the ground up. You might recognize his bikes in photographs with celebrities such as Post Malone, Diplo, Joel McHale. He is the co-founder and chief branding officer of the very popular e-bike manufacturer, Super73. Please welcome Aaron Wong. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time.
What's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for having me. And dude, congratulations on the launch of the brand. Very exciting for you and just happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to kind of share that mindset and excited to have you here and all the success that you've achieved at your company. And so before we kind of dig into some of the questions that I have, would you mind quickly doing an introduction of yourself?
Sure, yeah. So again, my name's Aaron P. Wong. I'm the co-founder and chief brand officer of Super73. And we are a lifestyle adventure brand. And we make products that, I guess, help bridge the gap between motorcycle heritage and youth culture. And mainly in the form of two-wheeled electric bikes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that. And I know that we've known each other for some time, but you're a San Francisco native. Tell me a little bit about, you growing up in San Francisco and how you've seen the city evolve over the last, 10 plus years. I'm kind of interested to hear your perspective in terms of how you saw San Francisco change. And I know that you now live in LA, but kind of like, what was your perspective as you started to see more people come into the city, into your home city? And did you see like opportunities to be able to grow from like a economy standpoint? Did you see that there could be potential loss in culture because there's so many people that are coming in that are not from San Francisco? Just wanted to kind of learn your perspective a little bit of how you've seen San Francisco change being a native yourself.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a fantastic question. And so born and raised in San Francisco, shout out Bay Area. Both of my parents were immigrants. My dad's from Toisan, which I think your dad's from that region too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for your viewers, it's a region in China. It's located in the Pearl River Delta. So it's southwest of Guangzhou. And my mom's from Hong Kong. So they made the journey over to the States, learned how to speak English, overcame a lot of obstacles, sacrificed everything they had for my sister and myself. So true immigrant story. Very similar to our group of friends, and that really had a profound impact on me and my values growing up. And I think one thing that really helped was, not only our volleyball community, which really fostered, a lot of love and a safe space for us to grow as people and to develop our skills in volleyball, but it taught us a lot of life lessons as well. And all the uncles and aunties, that put that environment together. I think that was really strong for our group of kids growing up. And I saw that in San Francisco, obviously in other groups too. And it was really important, for at least, myself and my sister to find people that really, believed in what we believed in, liked the things that we like to do, find our people and find our tribe. So, I can't speak much about after, I'd left, I've been gone from the city for about 10 years now, but, seeing what it's turned into and what it's evolved into, I think it's really inspiring, but it's also very heartbreaking too, right? The mass income inequality and seeing how that's been playing out. So there's a lot of things that I think from my personal perspective growing up, I hope that that's still continuing, and I hope those communities are still getting cultivated and nurtured, because I do think like it's an amazing, wonderful place to grow up in such a diverse, small, compact area. So you get you get a lot of energy and you feed off of that too. And sometimes it's you already know, like sometimes it's hard because in the city it's so foggy that you lose track of time. So you don't know what season it is, right? So years can go by and it still feels like, 2007 or something. But yeah, I think, for me, it shaped a lot of my upbringing, obviously. And it was just an awesome place to grow up.
For sure. And that's something that I'm really proud of from being from San Francisco too, is that there is so much diversity in the city that, you go to the Mission and you go to just all these different places and you get these different like cultures just based on the area, which is really exciting. And that helped me growing up to just appreciate, the different types of people that are out there. And I think, nowadays we are connected, and I think we need to get back to, being more connected in terms of understanding, the different backgrounds that people come from, and be able to appreciate that a little bit more. But kind of stepping back and talking a little bit about your upbringing, like what were your dreams when you were a little kid, growing up? Was it always your goal to be an entrepreneur, or was that something that kind of fell into your lap? Talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, I was never a born entrepreneur. I never had, I didn't do the lemonade stand. I didn't mow lawns. But I did know that, I always wanted to do something for myself. And, that helped guide, a lot of the decisions, in my life. And to be honest, I don't know if I really had any, concrete dreams and goals when I was a kid. And it wasn't that I didn't have any ambition. I think for me, I just wanted to enjoy being a kid and just hanging out with my friends as much as I could. Just really being in the moment. And I don't think I ever really thought about the future in that way. Again, I did know that I wanted to do something that I loved, and that was about it.
For sure. And so kind of digging into that a little bit, you went to Long Beach State, what were some of the things that you were kind of, educating yourself and kind of gearing yourself to kind of get into after college? What were you studying? Were you always in this e-bike realm, or was that something that you just found a strong passion for and you really started to dig into that?
Yeah. So I went to school in Long Beach. I studied industrial design and business entrepreneurship. So I guess that's kind of the first taste I got of real entrepreneurship, I guess, if you will. And that's really where I found a knack, I think, or I found that I had a knack to, find creative solutions to solve problems. And I had a lot of fun doing that too. So and I got really involved when I was in Long Beach. I joined all the clubs. I joined a fraternity. I became an RA, a resident assistant in the dorms, and eventually a coordinator. I got really involved, and it was great because I think that helped teach me a lot about even at the beginning, like trying to build and foster a community. So I guess maybe I can boil it down to two specific experiences in college that helped shape my views of the hardware I was building for myself for the future, right? And I think the first one was the resident assistant position. So I became a resident assistant and eventually a program coordinator, and helped develop all the programs for freshmen coming in and everybody who like lived on campus and at the dorms. And for me, that was very rewarding because going into college, it's a scary experience. It's, imagine going in as a freshman, you don't know anybody, you're in a new city, a new world, your receptors are wide open. And I saw that we had a chance and an opportunity to create an environment that was like a safe space, and one that was exciting, and one that promoted friendship, and those are the kinds of environments that really help plant the seed for long relationships that last for the rest of your life. So I found I had a great time doing that, and I felt like it was a great opportunity for me to learn some skills and to really create community, and I found a lot of passion in that. And then the other one was really rushing a fraternity. I think that experience gave me a lot of confidence, and also gave me my first skill set that I was able to apply and use in the real world later on, which was DJing. And so I DJ'd fraternity parties, and what happened was, I think I was at a party one night, and the guy who usually DJs didn't show up or something. And I was like, well, I still want to listen to music. I know what I want to listen to. I think I plugged in my laptop or something, just did a playlist on YouTube, and I was throwing fire. Like it was a good night, right? I got a lot of good feedback, and I just started doing fraternity parties. And then because of my relationship with the school, I started getting booked for school gigs. So doing like homecoming events and like, things like that. That's where I started emceeing a little bit.
Mhm.
So that comes later on in this, that I get to put all that stuff together later on, which actually becomes my first business after college. But yeah, I think college was obviously a lot of fun. And then so when I graduated, I just could not find a job for the life of me. Did like everything I could to get a job. Send out 2,000 interviews, did all the, sent out 2,000 resumes, took every single interview that I could get, just wouldn't get the callbacks. Or if I did get the callback, it'd be like, we want to make you an offer, doesn't happen. So it was really, disheartening right after school. I think it was like a period of 6 or 7 months. And I was running out of money too. Obviously wasn't, making anything. And I was kind of worried that I would have to go back home to San Francisco. But that's kind of where, out of desperation for survival, I was like, well, I know how to DJ. What if I DJ, some events? So I ended up DJing, and because early on I had found this niche, I was really into country music, and there weren't that many country DJs that would also play hip hop and electronic music. So long story short, I start my first business and my professional career as a country music DJ and line dance instructor. And actually, you helped me out with this. I don't know if you remember. You got me even a gig, I think, in the city one year.
Yeah, I remember that. That was so fun. We were able to do a conference gig where essentially we were part of the registration process where we were playing music and we got to DJ together. Such a fun experience. And I know that you kind of take it to the next level down in LA, where you did start your own company. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, how was that experience like? When you first started to build your company, did you know a lot of the paperwork stuff? Like, what was your mindset when it came down to, okay, now I have to start this company? Like, how did you first off kind of stay positive, right? I think like it can be hard to find a job, and especially nowadays during COVID, I think a lot of companies are starting to tighten up in terms of headcount. Like, how were you able to stay positive to know that, you wanted to do something amazing, but not get discouraged from all the no's that you were getting when you were applying for jobs?
Yeah. I think that was it was just that, right? Like the act itself of just playing music was therapeutic, and it was an escape from all the things that I really thought were supposed to be real life, like getting the job, getting the paycheck, and all that. So I had a blast playing music. We were playing music, right? We were playing music. We were in front of a live audience. We were doing weddings, and the weddings are interesting too, because that was you're part of somebody's one of the most important days of your life, right? And they're trusting you to help narrate that and to move that along. So it's a big responsibility. And I was really freaked out when I started doing weddings. I was like, I can do fraternity parties. Like if somebody gets mad, whatever, but if I screw up during a wedding, that's not good. But one of my friends, I think the very first one, convinced me that, hey, you're going to be fine. First of all, you love country music, and my family loves country music too. And so that gave me a lot of confidence to just play the things that I like to play. It happened to be for the right audience. And kind of everything just, melts away, and started figuring out pretty quickly. I didn't know how to do any of the business stuff, by the way. Didn't know how to do a website, or I kind of knew how to do business cards, and because, I had some graphic design experience, but, filing the LLC and all this kind of stuff. I really just didn't know. And really, I think that helped me a lot, because the ignorance and the inexperience really just made me learn it. So I was forced to learn. I had no other choice. And that was great. So eventually I started putting a brand around myself, and the DJ business starts taking off. So I'm doing 50, 60 events in a year. Eventually, starting moving up from Orange County to the city, and doing gigs in LA, and start booking corporate gigs, and eventually even the the studio rap parties. So Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, at the end of the season, they would do these big rap parties, and I started booking some of these accounts. I even got to do Demi Lovato's 25th birthday party, which, wow, true story, yeah, it was super cool. It was a lot of fun. But Yeah, so it's going well, and then I parlay that into a full blown like event entertainment company. So then I start offering other services other than just music. So it's music. I do the line dancing aspect of it, which is like a package, and then the lights. We do wedding coordination. Work with other vendors, and it becomes like a pretty good thing. And I get pretty into it. And the brand that I created started getting a name for itself, and started getting shared in the region. Remember, like I was in a niche, so nobody else really did it. The only other wedding DJs in that area at the time were, I don't know, some old school DJs. Name's Bill. Got the old decks from like 1980s. So I didn't have a whole lot of competition, at least in what I was trying to go for. But then what happened was I got to the point where I felt like I needed to start thinking about like a long-term plan. So am I going to do this forever? Like what happens next? Maybe I try to make it into the festival scene. I knew personally as a performer, I wasn't good enough to make it into that circuit. And so and it was fine. That wasn't my plan anyway. And I don't know if I want to DJ forever. And this is a boutique business, which is cool, but I kind of felt like, I got to do something else too. So I went back on and to the job market, and I started looking for like a real job, whatever, or one with that I could use my skills in, that I earned my degree in, which was design. So I ended up getting a job at an early stage startup, and they were making like utility cargo carts and like scooters. There was no salary, but it was like a straight equity, like a sweat equity offer. And I thought, well, I'm making decent money DJing. I can support myself right now. Maybe I'll just try this full time. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to DJing and buy myself some more time and figure it out then. If it does work out, I'll be an early stage founder. Maybe my equity be worth something if the thing takes off. So I take the job. And I actually become pretty good at it. I become the lead designer, and then eventually VP of product development. And so it's all going pretty good, but there's only one problem. And the problem, there's a couple problems, but the biggest problem was I absolutely hate it. I'm so miserable. I had major issues with the way the company is being run, and I didn't think that the CEO had the best interest of the company at heart. And at that point too, all the money I'd made DJing, and now this is like a couple years in now, had been drying up. So, because I was working full time at the startup, and that there was no salary, tied to it. It was all sweat equity. So that became a kind of a downturn in my 20s. It was actually pretty difficult. So I think I was 28 at the time, and I was even more broke than when I left college, because there's expenses in the that kind of add up. And I ended up on food stamps, and even I moved into my minivan for like 14 months. I couldn't make rent. And then I got sucked into the social media trap, and saw my friends moving up in their own careers, getting cars, getting married. Meanwhile, like I'm 28, I'm living in my van. I've got no life savings, no plan. But it was a sweet van, by the way. It was a 1998 Mercury Villager. I think it was like seafoam green. But I wish I still had that van. It was awesome. Wow. But no, I fell into a deep depression, and it was a pretty dark time in my life. So
yeah, it definitely sounds like a time where you kind of reflect now. I guess like looking back at it, what were some of the things that helped you kind of get out of that? I wouldn't even call it a rut, but you were kind of committing yourself to doing something that you wanted to do, but also you weren't getting paid to do it, right? So like what really clicked in terms of like, I need to figure something out now, and what steps did you take to kind of like where it led to you now? I think it's interesting to see people that do come, they start somewhere, and then they start to encounter these obstacles and challenges, and they really feel depressed. How were you able to get yourself out of it? I'd love to learn about that a little bit more in your mindset there.
Yeah. I don't know if there was like an aha moment in that time. Like it just felt like it would never end. It's like, the outside world would be like, oh, how's your startup going? How's your business going? What else can you say? Oh yeah, it's going great. Put on that face, but inside, you're kind of just torn apart. So, I don't think, for me anyway, it was it was as easy as just making a decision to do something about it, because I felt like I was actually trying to do something about it every day. And I think that in itself is what got me through it, is just kept grinding and just kept pushing, not knowing what was going to happen. So there wasn't like this great plan to get myself out of this, this pit of just like loneliness. And and my friends, my family were awesome. They tried to help. They're great, but I didn't want to put that burden on them. So I took I felt like I needed to pull myself out. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And then I think it was a period of like 8 months or something like that. But yeah, I think it just started compounding in a good way. So I got to the very bottom, and I started kind of slowly moving up. I didn't realize it at the time, but I started making incremental changes, and really started trying other like new things. And then one day, I think I was like looking at the books with some other guys, and we noticed that we were like 30 days short. Well, we were in about 30 days or so, we were going to be functionally insolvent. So we're going to run out of money. We had no more runway. And at that point, I think something just snapped in my head, and some of the other guys that were around me too. And we're like, F this, like, we got to do something. Like, this is not working. We have to, let's do what we do best. Let's just create something. Let's just make anything. So the idea was to come up with a new idea every month and just sell it on Kickstarter, like quick turn and burn. And Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform. I don't know if it's still around. I think it's still around, but it helps get initial ideas out to the public, into the market. So that was the plan. It was just to do a side project, sell it really quickly to make some money, and then we'll figure it out later. So the first idea that we have is like, okay, let's do a bike. We can't just do a bicycle, right? First of all, like, I'm not a cyclist. None of us really, we don't come from motorcycle culture necessarily, but let's do it because it seems kind of fun. But we're gonna do it our way. So we end up buying this kit. It's a taco mini bike kit. And taco mini bikes were really popular in Southern California in 1970. So they're like these open frame steel bike kits, and you can put like a lawnmower engine in it, and it just rips around, and you just have fun with your pops, and then now you have a whole thing that you remember, when you grow up. And then they would also used to customize them a lot. Like the fabricators in Southern California would take these, make modifications, and so we're like, okay, that's pretty easy. Like, we can do it's a couple $100 for the kit. Let's get that. We're trying to electrify some other things in our other business. So we had some parts laying around. And we had this one e-bike mid-drive conversion kit. So it's like an electric drivetrain that you put on like just a regular bicycle, and that becomes a drivetrain, and then it becomes an electric bike. Back then, before e-bikes were really popular in the US, you can only do it by making, like, kind of fastening these kits together. So we put the thing together, and we look at it, and we're like, oh, the wheels are kind of small, because those wheels are like 10-inch wheels. So we run over to Walmart, we get a kid's bike, like a kid's mountain bike. It's 20-inch wheels, chop it all up, put the thing on there, take a step back, and we're like, that's pretty dope. Like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and so that's just idea one. We're gonna just turn and burn. But then my business partner, not my now business partner, Michael, and I, at the time, we were looking at it, and we're like, this needs something. Like, this is more than just like a product. We have to do something about it. And so I look at him, I'm like, Michael, like, what do you love to do? And he goes, I love Star Wars. Like, he's a Star Wars influencer. He's got like 1 billion followers on TikTok and stuff. And then he turns the question on me. He's like, what do you like to do? And I'm like, well, I love to play music. I love music. I love fashion. I love entertainment. And before I even finish the sentence, like, we're looking at each other. We're like, that's it. We're going to make a lifestyle brand. And this is going to be the vehicle that's going to take us there. So over the next 2 weeks, I put together the website. I had some experience now because I did the DJ business. I put together the logos. I'm writing up all the copy. I do the product pages. Michael's doing the photos, and he puts this kick-ass video together. And we launch it on Kickstarter. And we were thinking we're going to get like 15, 20 orders. That's more than enough to cover rent next month, right? Like, so it's a 30-day campaign. Put it on Kickstarter. Don't even think about it. In 30 days, over 600 orders come in. Like, wow. This is like a $2,000 like item that doesn't exist. We only made one, right? 600 orders come in, and our minds are just blown. And so I think at that point, it's just off to the races. We ended up liquidating all the other individual businesses, put my resignation in, and we just put everything we had into Super73. And essentially we got our seed round, our seed funding came from, the community, from the community that's still with us today.
That is an amazing story, and it's so crazy to think that, you know, at one point you were, you know, more broke than you were in college, and then to be able to really work with, I guess, like, how did you find these groups of people that helped you build Super 73? Were they part of the team that you were working with previously, or like, how did you get connected with, Michael and some of the other people that helped you?
Yeah. So, that I think that's it touches on a point that was really, it's pretty thematic, at least in my life, which is, really nurturing those relationships every step of the way, and remembering kind of where you came from. So, in that time span of, I think it was like a 7 or 8 year period where I was just kind of figuring things out. Like I had been developing relationships over the course of my professional career, and we tried a bunch of other businesses too that, maybe a story for another time, but so we always had business partners come in, business partners come out, other stakeholders come in, employees here, there, and it would always just kind of cycle through. And within that, there are a small group of people that kind of just made it every step of the way. And some people, didn't make it all the way through. And that's due to many things, right? Like you have your own personal life. There's timing implications. Sometimes you need to start a family when you need to start a family. And I think for Michael and I, we happen to be in our, mid to late 20s, and we didn't have a whole lot of responsibility, right? Like as far as like our personal lives went. So we could invest all this time into what we were trying to build, and we truly believed in it. And it took, and my other business partner, his name's LeGrand. He's the CEO of the company, and he's the one who brings the technical experience of building out the bikes and the electric drivetrains. But really, the three of us had come together, and it was like magic. Like once you find that special team, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, you know when it happens. It's like you guys and how you guys have put together Smash, right? And when you guys went on that 5-year championship run, and just you and Connex all the time, like it's a special thing. It's the Golden State Warriors, right? In this most recent era. So I think that's the equivalent of what I found in the team here. But you have to go through a lot of a lot of not go through a lot of people, but you have to go through a lot of hoops to find that team. And once you find it, like, don't let go, right? Like you got a small window of opportunity to win the championship, and you got to go now. And I think that's what we took away from it. We realized that this is the first time in all of our lives that we've found a team that's so cohesive, that really truly believes in what we're doing, and believes in each other, and is very supportive. And and that was really the genesis of I think the culture that we started building at Super 73.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think it is very rare to find, people that you can, just partnerships in general for businesses. I've had other previous partners before, and it is tough, right, to be able to get on the same page at times. What advice would you give to people that are in partnerships today, or thinking about starting a business with other partners? What are some of the advice that you would give to them, so that way you do build this strong bond? Because I think that it does take a lot of communication. It takes a lot of, expectation setting and things like that. But what type of advice would you give to people that are thinking about starting a business with other business partners to be successful?
Yeah, I would say be very, very, very selective. Wait for the right person or group of people. But I mean, don't just wait, right? But like, don't settle. When it comes to, I think, and this I can only speak for myself. When it comes to finding, your partners and your fellow co-founders, you got to find the right person, and they have to be equally as committed. The stakes have to be the same, and I think you have to build that trust with integrity, and just trust your business partner. If you can trust your business partner with your life, then that might be a good place to start, right? And that's the level I think you need to have any kind of success. And I think if the relationships build on really just a transactional relationship, where like, okay, maybe someday we can exit, and we'll all like walk away together, and that's the time element. It might work. That's for me in my in my personal experience, it hasn't worked that way. And so that's really, I think, the main thing, like really get the right person or people.
For sure. And now, talking about, you starting Super73 and the Kickstarter and the success that you guys found, what was that next step? Like you said, you had one bike basically that you guys have built, and you got all this funding. What was that next step for you guys? Now that you're like, wow, this idea has really picked up. Where do we go now? What was the conversation like with your business partners?
Yeah, I don't think there was much conversation at all, in a good way, right? Because we were like, we know what we need to do. We need to build these bikes. Like that. That was the next step. That the only thing we needed to do was deliver those bikes, and we didn't have a way of doing that necessarily. So again, right after the Kickstarter closed, we made a decision. We're like, hey, we're going to go all in. Michael had his own business too, so he rolled up his business. His background's in viral media and content. So he had a videography business with a couple employees. Well, he ended up rolling that up. I rolled up my DJ business. LeGrand closed up his business as well. We all came together. And because of my experience and LeGrand's experience in product development and manufacturing, like I'd been going to China for a couple of years with my previous startup. So I understood supply chain and manufacturing. So I was able to recreate that here with our team, and we built out the whole production line in I think 7 months in our warehouse in Tustin. So we bought all the machinery, got the crude materials. It's steel, and we made all the frames too. So we would buy these giant rolls of or extrusions of the steel tubes, and then we would feed it through the cold saw. I would be hand pulling the cold saw. We tack weld it. We would bend it all up, tack weld it together. We have a professional welder that comes and finishes it, and that was the frame. And then LeGrand took care of all the electronics and all the other components like the wheels, and we made a little assembly line. And sure enough, we delivered every single one of those Kickstarter bikes. I think in under a year.
Wow.
And so that was the next year for us. And then what happened was at the same time, we still were trying to sell additional units, right? Now we're building up the production capabilities to do this. And it was very expensive because it's in Southern California. And, that was really tough to do. But so we were trying to also sell additional units, and we ran into a couple friction zones and points, I guess, when we first started. And I think it was because we positioned ourselves incorrectly. We started in the electric bicycle industry. And this is 2016, so it's still fairly new. And at the time, I think e-bikes represented like 1% of all global bicycles sold worldwide. And the other issue was that because we went, that traditional dealer route as far as distribution goes, all the bicycle dealerships were like, that's never going to work, right? Like bicycles have been around for like 200 years. This geometry is not going to pedal right. Like you need this, it's all this kind of stuff. So a lot of haters, a lot of noise, and pretty much they just told us like, that school project's never going to take off. And so that's a chip on our shoulders. And then we thought about it and we're like, well, you know what? We don't need to sell our product to you guys. Like, why would we want to sell our product to 1% of the entire bicycle market? We want to sell to everybody that doesn't know that they need this in their life right now, or at least get it in front of them. And so that was the transition point to where e-commerce was really starting to take off. There wasn't too many people in our space. I think the hoverboards had just kind of come down from their big heyday, and I think the Lime scooters were just starting, but personal ownership of vehicles was still relatively new. So the way we positioned it was, we're just going to make a cool electric motorbike that feels like a motorcycle and is accessible to anybody, and you look like a badass on it, right? And so you don't have the complications and the risk of trying to go for a motorcycle license, which is very expensive. It's dangerous. Like you could die on a motorcycle. There's a lot, right? For millennials, a lot of barriers to entry to get into motorcycling. But that doesn't mean we don't want to ride motorcycles. So that just means like there's so many other things going on. What if we made it easier? No license, no registration. It feels like it has the ergonomics of it, but it's got the ease and practicality of a bicycle. like best of both worlds kind of thing. So we didn't have a marketing budget, but YouTube was free. So we started making all these videos and really, put a lot into our Instagram and really just tried to tell our story directly to the consumer. And because of the rise of e-commerce at the right time, at the right place, I think we got a little bit of a first mover's advantage and a little bit of a head start. And I also think because the message came directly, from us, it was, I think our authenticity really resonated with the community and the audience. And I think that's why, now for us, like it seems like we have this, great, passionate, rabid, loyal community, which we absolutely do. But it didn't just come out of nowhere. Like we've been building that slowly and steadily over the years.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that's something that's really important in today's kind of business world, is that community aspect. That's something that I'm kind of focused on too, is just trying to build a community of people that, have these different goals and dreams, and yes, you'll face challenges, but like really, push yourself and empower yourself to really go for what you really want. And similar to kind of your experiences, it sounded like, people didn't believe in your product, and they're like, why would we want to sell this? And you guys were able to kind of overcome that obstacle and say, well, I think that we have something here, and yeah, instead we'll go online, we'll go e-commerce, and we'll test the market, and we believe in our products. And that's an amazing mindset, because I think more and more people need to have that, especially because we're more connected. Everybody feels like, oh, why would you want to do that? Or why would you want to do that? It's just like, man, if you really want to do it, go after it, learn about it. Like you said, your experiences. If you don't know about it, you're forced to learn about it. And that's part of the process of learning, right? But it's awesome to see your success. And yeah, I love the look of your bikes. They look amazing. I see them all over San Francisco. And,
Awesome.
and
Thanks,
so proud, because I'm like, yeah, I know the guy one of the guys that started it, but it's amazing to see kind of the success that you guys have had, and excited to see, where you guys go. Talking a little bit about your community, you guys have a really, really strong community. What were some of the main parts? I know you talked about authenticity, but what were some of the main focuses that you guys prioritize in terms of building that community? Was like, I guess, like the question that I'm trying to ask is, what type of advice would you give to people that are trying to build a company that has that community side to it? What were some of the things that worked for you guys, and what were some of the things that, maybe didn't work, or, what were some of the mistakes that you guys made that you guys were able to overcome? Just kind of, sharing that knowledge with some of the entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the biggest mistake that we made early on was that we didn't put it as a priority, and not because we didn't want to. It was because we were we had such limited resources and bandwidth that all we were focused on was making the bikes. Mm-hmm. Like we couldn't, like we could. I mean, it was like we started with like 5 of us, I think. We were all answering the phones and all the emails, so we couldn't provide that level of service that we really thought our community deserved. But also because that wasn't our expertise as well. We didn't, have. I worked in retail. I think I worked in H&M for like 2 years, and that was about the extent of the front-facing customer service experience that I got, right? And I think Michael worked at Costco for a while, which was better. But so I think, early on in the first couple of years, we weren't able to provide that service. But I think what we were able to do was really connect with the community. And what I mean by that is like, so the vehicles, because of the nature of them, like it's a lot more fun to ride in a group than to ride together. So we started going on group rides like with our community, because they were local. They were in Southern California. We would do these group rides, every week, or every couple of times a month, and it was a lot of fun. And we developed some really great relationships with people from all over, the county, from LA, from down as far as San Diego. I think one of our first Kickstarter, a couple of our first Kickstarter backers were from San Francisco. So they came down from San Francisco to ride with us. And again, like we're nobody, right? Like we're just like these young kids, just riding some bikes around. But we didn't know how else to do it. And we really just tried our best to really nurture that relationship that we had built. And we're still, great friends today with a lot of the community. And now the community has grown. And they become ambassadors for their own regions. They have we have a term called Super Squad, which is all of our passionate group and following for the riders. So they have Super Squad organically self-formed chapters all over the world. They have a San Francisco chapter, there's a Los Angeles chapter, there's a New York chapter, there's a Latino gang chapter, is what they call themselves, you know, in the Northeast. There's one in Paris, in Tokyo. There's in South Korea, and you know, it's kind of like all over the place. And you know, they all just want to kind of get together. And going back to the theme of true community, like that's you know that's in our DNA, right? Like we want to find our people, we want to find our tribe. It's the whole reason why right, we're Homo sapien versus Homo erectus, right? We need this for survival. And I think we got really lucky because the nature of what we've built created that culture to where they just want to find each other. So it's nothing that we did, I think, like you know, to help. It's just this is what humans want to do.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing to see that the passion was there between your customers and building a community within their own regions and seeing that grow. It must have been so humbling and so amazing to see from your perspective. I guess like as you guys started to get more popular, like what was that turning point for you guys? You know, you guys obviously have started to work with a lot of celebrities and things like that. You know, take me through your journey a little bit about, you know, from the time of Kickstarter, 600 bikes to where you guys are at now. Like, what were some of the key points in that timeline that you really felt like this was kind of moving upward in that direction? And when was it that first time? How did it feel to have that first celebrity take a picture with your bike? I mean, I'm kind of curious to just learn from your experience and from your side, you know, what that experience was like from the time that you did the Kickstarter to now.
Yeah, no, totally. So let me see if the best way I can summarize this. A lot has happened over the past 4.5 years. So Kickstarter launches. The first year we're focused on really designing, developing, and just getting the product out into the hands of our customers. And then year 2, we start focusing on outward brand-facing initiatives, and really in a guerrilla way. Remember, we don't have any marketing budget, right? We only have enough money to make the bikes. We're still not drawing a salary, by the way, because we're not making money. It's a very capital intensive process to build these bikes, especially in the United States. So the thing I think that helped was YouTube. And so we started creating all these different YouTube videos. And I think the first project that went viral was we did a Star Wars speeder bike. So like the speeder bikes from like, what is it, Return of the Jedi? And these speeder bikes, we built like 2 of them, these makeshift speeder bikes that really look like, you know, screen accurate speeder bikes. Got a bunch of costumes from Michael's Star Wars community. We drove to New York and filmed a viral video in downtown New York, and that blew up. It went viral. I think it went on like Time Magazine, Huffington Post. It was a Halloween prank, I think, and that really put us into the discussion of like, oh shoot, this might be like an influential brand in a different type of way, and that I think spawned a host of other ideas. And on I guess on the brand front, one of the very first celebrities was a fashion model. Her name's Coco Rocha. So she's like America's top model, and she saw the bikes and was like, hey, I need this for New York Fashion Week. I think it's like 2017. And I have this like rose gold outfit. We got a headline with the bike, and we're like, dope, this is super cool. Like, this is amazing, right? Like, how do we do this? So we end up making this custom copper bike that we send back over to New York. It gets lost, by the way, and we have to do it. I go on this huge like treasure hunt to go find it. It's like February. It's really cold. I can't find it. I get disheartened, and then last minute I find it, and then I take it down to where the show's going on, and make it just in time. And so this is my first celebrity experience, I guess. And by the way, like, so I think the bike, or where the Airbnb was, where I was staying, is like Upper West Side or something. And the show's in Chelsea, and it's like rush hour. So I can't get the bike, you know, and it's snowing. so I was like, I'm never going to be able to get like a taxi. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's going to take like 45 minutes to get on the subway. And I don't know New York that well. I was like, I got to ride the bike. Like, and so I jump on this copper plated bike, and it's like a, $6,000 MSRP bike, right? It's like really expensive. I'm like, hightail it down to Chelsea, and where I make it in time. And I was like, this is pretty awesome because I'm flying through traffic. It's like, I feel like a superhero going through New York City. That bike is still in New York, by the way. A guy named Sam Sheffer has it on his YouTube channel and his studio. But so I get there, and then Coco, sweetest ever, she's like, this is super cool. Okay, you have to come upstairs now. And I was like, what? I have to come in. I was like, okay, yeah, I got to come in, right? I got to go. And then so we go in, the doors open, and it's called, I think the studio is called Milk Studios. And we go up to the fourth floor. It's like an hour before the show. The doors open up, and all the paparazzi's there. They turn, all the cameras start flashing. It's like the devil, Devil Wears Prada, like that kind of moment. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I'm just like walking in. And then so they do the show, and it gets a great buzz. And we continue a string of those types of like guerrilla efforts over the next year or so. And then, one YouTuber sees it from another. They want to do a YouTube together. We start doing that until it gets to the point where we had this ambitious idea where we wanted to get a bike to Post Malone. Like, we didn't know how to do it. It's like, we don't know anybody who knows Post Malone, but we know he's headlining at Coachella, right? Like, this is like, I think it's 2018. And so we're like, all right, what do we do? Like, let's just make this gold plated bike. It's a real 24 karat gold plated bike. It's like, $25,000 in value. And I'm like, that's it. We're just going to go to Coachella. We don't have any tickets. It's real. I mean, it was still really expensive back then. We got to get this to Post. So we just drive out there with no plan. We go to the Coachella in Indio Valley, and we're like, all right, we're gonna figure it out. So we end up somehow at the it's either the Revolve party or the Levi's party. I think it's the Levi's party. And then at the party, Snoop Dogg happens to be at the party, and he sees the bike like from afar. And he starts saying like,
how about I'm gonna hold it for Post Malone. It's both our bikes. It'll just be at my house. He can come get it whenever he needs.
And we're like, whoa, that was cool. Like, Snoop Dogg just jumped into our video, which was super funny. And so we start making connections that, this is all within a 8-hour span. And we're like, hey, we hear somebody says, hey, we hear that Post Malone has a party going on like tomorrow night. This is the address. Like, there's gonna be a lot of security. Let's try to get there. So we go to that party, and it's a big house. Sway Lee's there, like Nigel Houston, like all the hottest girls. Like, it's like a big rock star party, and they're filming like a music video too. And so somehow we get beyond into the gates, into the party, and we're just waiting there on the side, like wallflowers, for like 6 hours. But Post Malone's there, right? Like, we see him. He's just talking to his entourage. He sees the gold bike at golden hour, and he goes, "That thing is dope. Let me jump on this." He jumps on it, rides around his little complex area. The artistic director or the director of the video shoot is like super pissed because they just lost golden hour, and so like, they kind of ruined the shoot. And so that kind of kicked off. Dang, okay, maybe A-list celebrities like this thing too. Then what happened was that video went viral, and then Will Smith saw it. So Will Smith saw that video, contacted us and said, hey, I want to do more stuff with you guys. I want to see these bikes. And he happened to be shooting a movie, which turned out to be Bad Boys 3. And I want to take these bikes over to my shoot. I think he was going to Colombia. So he gets the bike, a couple of them, and he makes a viral video and this is when he's starting his own YouTube channel. Like, he had just gotten on the social media. He didn't have to do that for us. And that one just takes off. And then the rest, everybody just starts following in after that. That was our story into a long story into our connection into, I guess, the Hollywood world.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And I know that you've also built a lot of partnerships, with the famous PSG, French Football Club. Tell me a little bit about, now that you guys have gone global, how has it been like working with these types of brands? I know that you've partnered with multiple brands, and maybe you can list some of them. But what was that like for you now that you're the chief branding officer, kind of leading the efforts there? How were you able to was that something that came inbound to you guys, or was that something that you guys were seeking now that you're kind of seeing a lot of success when it comes to working with A-list, celebrities, and maybe now it's time to go a little bit more at a global scale with some of these larger brands that people recognize? Like, tell me a little bit about that journey there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's well, for me, that's like almost like a super passion. I love that stuff, and I think creating brands and partnering with legendary brands is something that I didn't know that I really wanted to do. But when I was growing up and when I was starting to get into this thing, but I think that's where I really found a lot of passion that I could merge professionally with what we were doing at Super73. I think it was important for us too, because a key thing that we push at Super73 is innovation. And when we talk about innovation, it's like, well, what does innovation really mean, right? It means so many different things. It doesn't mean you have to build a rocket ship to space or, save the world with a new technology to innovate. Anybody can innovate, right? And, that's what we're trying to promote internally, within our team and our culture. And so for us, the ways we innovate is pretty simple. Number one, we go explore. Like, we actively explore. We get away from our desk and we try to learn new things. We go to different departments, whether it's new battery tech that we're trying to learn, and just really just get out, right? And go on a group ride. And the second thing we do is take what we've learned and then create something with it. Just make anything, right? Like, create, a TikTok, create a drawing, create a prototype, create relationships, create processes and procedures, whatever it is, just create it. Then you want to share it, right? The next part is sharing. So for us, that comes naturally, right? Like, that's just our process of how we innovate. And then, kind of tying that in with our own personal passion of just wanting to do cool stuff with our friends. That's kind of how the collaborations started. Because it's pretty unlikely for a small startup, an Orange County electric bike company, to partner and collaborate with a legendary Parisian soccer club, right? So in what world does that make sense? But in our world, it makes total sense, right? And so it was just, that one's a really fun one, because that one started from a relationship that we had cultivated earlier on in our careers. And one of the, we had tried to do collaborations in the past with, one of the other brands, but it just wasn't the right time. It just didn't work out. And what happened was, one of the guys that we were trying to do this collaboration with, we just kept in touch, and he lives in Paris. And I happened to be in Paris in, I think it was February, and we ended up going to this art show. So we're at this art show together, and we start talking. We're like, oh, how are you doing? This is really cool. He goes, hey, I just got this job at PSG, and I'm like the creative director of partnerships, of global brand partnerships. Like, dang, that sounds like a sick title, right? That's cool. His name's Guillaume. And so he was like, yeah, we had just finished the Jordan collab. So PSG did a big collab with a Jordan brand. He was like, I want to do something different. Like, what do you think? What if we talk? And we try to pitch an idea where we do a collaboration where you can ride the bikes out onto the field. And that's kind of how it started. Like, we were, it's like a cold night in Paris where, drinking wine, eating cheese, and we're just kind of shooting the shit. And that's kind of how that one started. And one thing led to another. And then in 2019, it all came together. It was the biggest collaboration we had ever done. It was an international collab, obviously. There was a limited edition 100-unit run where we sold some in Paris and then some in the US. And I think it sold out in the first couple days or something like that. And then that got a lot of mainstream media attention. So ESPN picked that one up, Soccer Bible, and Hypebeast, and so on and so forth. And that really started letting the fashion and lifestyle industry know that, hey, we kind of play in this space, and we should pay attention to all this up. And because we were kind of like a tech play, it was interesting. It was an interesting story. And it wasn't just like another clothing or apparel collab. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the examples of, and we do a lot of collaborations now. Our calendar's booked out until 2023 at this point. But it's something that we really enjoy doing, and we don't do it for the financial gain of it. And really what we want to do is create meaningful and authentic collaborations, because it's just fun. There's no other reason to do it other than it's awesome.
For sure. And that's amazing. And I think that is a lot of people's goals, right? And I think it's not necessarily from like a financial standpoint, but it's like you guys always had this goal of like being a lifestyle brand, right? And now being recognized for that at a global scale is amazing to see. And so excited for you guys and what you guys have accomplished so far, as well as kind of where you guys are going next. I guess talking about that now, like what is next for you guys? You guys have been able to work with so many great, brands and celebrities. Like what is really next for you guys as a company?
Yeah. So I think you're taking a look at it from the high level 30,000 foot view. So what's happening in the e-bike industry is that it's, at least in North America, it's still fairly new, but it's starting to gain momentum. In Europe, it's a lot more established because there are a lot of infrastructure that's already built out for it. Amsterdam's a very bike-heavy city, which our European office is based out of, and there's a lot of international legislation that's being passed to ban like fossil fuel cars. For instance, like in the old city of Amsterdam, they're going to ban all cars in general, electric or not, or otherwise, right? So the whole movement's shifting to alternative means of transportation, and for us, like it doesn't mean scooter share is the only option. Like personal, I think people still want to own things. Personal ownership is still important. Well, you can make it cool. So, and at the same time, the motorcycle industry they've been having a tough time over the past decade or two, getting new and younger riders into motorcycle riding. So that's where we feel like we can fit in. That's where we feel like we can take that motorcycle heritage, the look, the feel, the culture, that whole essence of it, distill it down to what it really is, and then make it accessible for everybody. But also, because of where the paradigm shift is happening in all of transportation, there's an outlet for that. There's a natural outlet for us to do that. So that's our approach to what's happening. Oh, and the other trend that's happening is the mass urbanization. Well, I guess now it's a reverse, but a lot of folks are just moving. People, in our generation, are moving to larger cities and more dense areas. Before the pandemic, but that was a trend that's happening. And when you move into a condensed area like San Francisco or Chicago or New York, you can't really take your car. And even if you take your motorcycle or your moped, like where are you going to park it? And you don't need to fire up your car to go like a couple miles down the road to grocery store or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that again is where we come in. And again, like scooter share and ride share is one form of it. I think we're just offering another alternative solution that just happens to look really cool. So all of that is happening, and what we think is going to take place is a consolidation of the industry. So new players are popping up. They're emerging left and right. There's copycats. People are trying to copy our form factor all the time, trying to recreate the things that we've done. And the big OEMs are like the motorcycle manufacturers are looking at this space too, and they're trying to come this way. So we're here, right? And then both sides are kind of creeping in. So we see that window closing in. We still think we have a little bit of a first mover advantage. So right now, the main idea and our plan is that we have to maximize our growth potential. And we have to move now from development to expansion. And so, it's created the perfect storm for a condition called hypergrowth. So we have a small window of time to maximize that growth before that window closes. Because at the end of it, what we think is going to happen is there's going to be a reconsolidation, and there's only going to be a few players that come out on the other side. And when that happens, the other thing that we want to do is make sure that we're a household name. Right now, again, in maybe California and some the northeast corridor, what Super73 is, but globally nobody really knows who we are. And so we need to get to that scale. So those are really the things that we have to do next. We're pedal to the metal. We're going.
For sure. Well, I'm excited for that journey. I think, you guys have definitely created a product that it almost felt like first in the market in terms of like the design and everything that you guys have built within within your bikes. And, it stands out when you start walking on the street and you see your bikes. It's just like, those are really dope bikes, right? And I think that you guys have really captured something here, and I love that community aspect. I'm always about being able to like you said, find your tribe and find people that like the same things as you, and be able to ride and things like that, which is pretty awesome. A couple last questions for you, and kind of like stepping away from just Super 73, but maybe you personally, you know, how do you define success? I mean, you've obviously have been able to find success with Super 73, but what do you really define as success for yourself?
Yeah, that I didn't really think about that question for a long time until recently, actually, and because I didn't really know, like I didn't know what was a good metric to go off of. But I think I would imagine that maybe I have a similar definition to it as you do. And for me, I just want to create cool shit with my friends, and I want to do that and be able to create wealth and prosperity for everybody I care about. So I think, as simple as it is, like that's kind of how I would define success for myself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, a lot of the times too, before, like we always, like society nowadays, it's all about, how much money you have. And yes, while that does sometimes result from success, right? I think that we also need to evaluate kind of what our goals are, right? And I think being able to strive for your goals and achieve your goals, that's part of what I define as success, just because that may not always come in the form of money, like you said. Like when it comes to like these partnerships, they're not necessarily for the money, but it's because you have a passion, that you want to work with these types of global brands, and to get those opportunities and to be able to make those happen. That's a form of success, right? And that may not necessarily come from just making a ton of money, but it's also being able to work with really cool people and cool brands that you've always dreamed of working with. Um, and I think, in terms of like when you had to overcome, your lows when you were, working for that previous startup, you know did you hear a lot of noise like back then, or did you have a lot of people like, why are you doing this? Or what was that experience like? Because I think there's a lot of people that do encounter like the lows of the lows, and sometimes it doesn't help when they hear outside noise. But what was your experience like when you were experiencing that, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I think I was really fortunate that I had a really strong foundation of family members and friends that were just there to support me. So internally, in my inner circle, I didn't have people like, or naysayers. And I understand that's not always the case for everybody, but for me, I was very fortunate to have that, that backbone and that support. So it made all the difference when I know my mom was concerned for sure, my mom and my dad, and they were like, it's not like, hey, you kind of get your stuff together, like you're approaching 30 now, like that kind of thing. But it wasn't like, you know, they put pressure on me to either make it or not. I think they really wanted me to be just happy and really go for the things I wanted to go for. So just knowing that and knowing like the amount of support that I had behind me, I think gave me a lot of motivation to keep going. And even if I would say, like, even if you don't have that in your corner, like it's out there, like, and you just have to find it in your own way, because people will believe in it, but you have to believe in it first. Like, yeah, you have to like 100% commit, like believe in not just your idea but yourself, and knowing that it's not going to be perfect, it's going to be messy, it's going to be very, very difficult, but you can do it. Like, you just got, as you know, as corny, as cheesy and cliche as it sounds, it's like you just got to put that effort to pump yourself up and just go for it.
No, I totally agree with that for sure. Sometimes people don't necessarily see the same vision as you do, right? But if you have that complete buy-in in yourself, and you can find that support system, and really go after it, I think that great things will come out of it, in the end. And that, like you said, like the success may not necessarily come in the form that you thought of, but it can come in other forms, right? And that's like the really interesting part about life, that you do find success, but it may not necessarily be what you initially envisioned it to be.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's very true to you. You probably didn't initially envision this, but you have been able to find success by going forward with your passion and going forward with what you really believe in.
Yeah,
And it's
well
awesome to see.
said. And you just brought up a point that that I think it's important and worth echoing, which is the money and the profits. That's not the end all be all. And if that's the goal when you start, you might get there. But I think that's you might destroy a lot of relationships along the way. And when you get there, we can share it with. So for us, it's a good analogy, I think, that I just heard with Simon Sinek, where he says, well, the business is like the car, the vehicle, and the money is a byproduct of what you need to do to get that car to get to the next level. So the business is the car, but the money is the fuel. The fuel is going to take you to where you need to go, but you don't buy a car to use the fuel. Like to just for the fuel, right? Like, so I mean, he puts it a lot more eloquently, but I think the more important thing is going back to, I think, what you're trying to create too, which is you're trying to build, again, wealth and prosperity for all of your stakeholders, right? Like, and all your stakeholders are not just your community and your customers, but it's your community, it's your customers, it's your investors, it's your friends, it's your family, it's the environment. Those are all the stakeholders that really invest into you and your business. And for us, like, we have an obligation to make sure that everybody prospers. Suppliers, vendors, everything.
For sure. I agree. And I guess I have one more question before we hop off here. But so if we could go back 10 years from today, right? And you were to give yourself advice back in 2011, what advice would you give that? What advice would you give yourself?
Well, so I think the advice I would give myself is the inexperience and the ignorance that you have is going to be your best friend. Like, the fact that you don't know anything, that's going to be a powerful ally, right? And so use that frame of reference. I've been talking to myself, trying to imagine. Like, use that frame of reference, and then just go. Like, give 0 Fs. Like, just don't wait. Like, go on pure instinct. Don't even think about it. And don't stop until you get it, because like, your success doesn't belong to anybody else except for you. And so you just gotta go get it, and you gotta make it happen. And it doesn't really matter, again, where you start. It doesn't matter what you do. You just gotta do something. It's never gonna be perfect, but launch the product. Just get it out there and become an expert. Like, just be the best at what you can be. Just become a beast at whatever you do, whatever you choose to do, right? And again, just keep pushing, just keep grinding. It's really as simple as that. And I think that's the advice I'd give myself.
I love that advice. I think that's really important and in life, because like we're gonna be faced with different obstacles in life, and how are you gonna overcome that? It's through that passion, through that focus, right? And believing in yourself, and being able to, I feel like, nowadays, as we get older, you kind of like really appreciate like life in general. And it's just like, what are you going to do to make yourself happy? Right. And I think that's really important, that we sometimes lose vision of. And I think that as long as you kind of stay focused on what makes you happy, whether it's, being the best at your job, and maybe you do want to work for somebody, or starting your own thing, I think it's just going through that with integrity and focus and passion. I think that you'll find a lot of success in that, and therefore, crushing everything that you encounter in life, which is what you want. So,
yeah. I have one more thing I want to add to, and if you get there and you're able to enjoy that success, you got to share it. You got to share it with your friends. You got to share it with your family, everybody who's in your corner. Like, that's really what it's all about.
I agree. You have to have a great support system, and when you do, it just makes everything so much better. And to be able to share it with them is all like what it's all about, right? And I think that's really important. But thank you so much, Aaron. This has been awesome. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to chat with me and with our community. I'm excited to share this with everybody, and kind of see how it empowers people to go after their dreams. I think that you have a really fantastic story, and thank you for sharing your mindset and opening up about your story. I think it's really interesting, and I hope everybody gets to learn from it. I think that that's really the goal of this spotlight, is to be able to share the different struggles and the different successes that people have been able to achieve, and how they got there. And so thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast, and it was great catching up with you. And congrats on launching the brand. Very, very excited for what you're about to do. Yeah, I just can't wait. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Well, Aaron, I hope you have a good rest of the day, man. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk soon. All right.
All right, man. Talk to you later, Justin.
See ya, man.
One chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Yeah, it's one art, one shot, now the future is yours.